Hi, my name is Brian Stocks. I'm very proud to be the chair of a wonderful team of volunteers that got together to plan our strategy to let the Ministry of Health know we want that hospital on County Road 42. There's no reason not to put it there, right? If you haven't signed a postcard at all, we have them out there in the lobby. Please do that. They'll be collected, and we'll tell you later on how all that is going to be delivered. I'd like first of all now to introduce the outstanding volunteers on our team. Brenda Brunel, stand up please. Yeah, hey, Brenda. Jeff Casey at the back. Yeah, Jeff. Joe McParland, you've already heard from Joe. Where's Joe? Well, when I want him, I can't find him. Right here. Dollarama glasses, folks, over there. Noah Tepperman, where's Noah? Hey, in the back corner. Hey, Noah. Beverly Valaket, where's Bev? Right here. Woo! Ronna Warsh, right here, Ronna. Janice Windsor. Where's Janice? Over here at the side. Yay. And the man you're going to hear a lot about later tonight, because he really kick-started this whole thing, Gunther Wolf. Where's Gunther? Over here. Stand up! Hey. He is standing. I also want to extend a very special thanks to all the sponsors and supporters whose names you will see reflected on the screen at the back. We just had a lot of help putting this all together. 42 Forward was launched to give a vehicle for all those in favor of our new hospital on County Road 42 to have their voices heard. Because prior to this, you didn't. We've opened up the county, the city. We've got, as you're going to hear from our members later, the number of people that have signed the online petition, the number of cards that have been signed, all the way from Amherstburg, all the way around over to Stony Point. The county has really jumped aboard this because this is your hospital too, right? So tonight you're going to hear 5 interesting presentations, followed by what we call the call to action. And you're going to be deeply moved by what you hear and how the vision for this new hospital has to occur because of what you're going to hear tonight under the current system and all that's going to be possible with County Road 42. So just once, bear with me. Will you repeat after me? 42 forward. 42 forward. I wanted to do that 3 times, but my committee said don't do it at all. So I compromised. Welcome. Here we go. My pleasure now to introduce our MC for the evening, Jumpin' Joe McParland.
I think Brian's auditioning to be the public address announcer at the Toronto Raptor games. That was really well done, Brian. Listen, look around and see who's here tonight. Look at you on a busy Thursday night. You could be many places, grocery shopping. There's all sorts of functions tonight. There's debates. There's all sorts of things happening. But you're here tonight. And you're here for one reason. 42 Forward. Let's get it built. I wanted to start by saying we're having a lot of people drive in and drive out tonight because there's no parking available. This facility is attached to Windsor, or to Families First next door. And one of the great leaders of our community, Bill Varga, passed away. And he's resting at the chapel as we speak. In politics for over 40 years, just an amazing man in the Leamington, Sandwich West area. I covered county council for many years for TV Kojiko, and one of the gentlemen I always looked forward to seeing was Bill. He had this natural, affirming face, always smiling, always welcoming. And I bumped into him about 2.5, 3 years ago at Canadian Tire on the West End, and he'd been retired a number of years, but we chatted, and he said to me, "Joe, I just read that article you wrote about the new mega hospital." I wrote an article for BizX magazine. This was 3 years ago, in support of it. And he said, "I'm totally behind you. I'm totally behind you." And one of the last words he said to me, because I haven't seen Bill since, "Joe, keep up the fight for that hospital. We all need it." So how appropriate is it tonight that we are keeping up that fight for that hospital, because we all need it, on the very night one of the great leaders of our community is lying in state there. So, just to let you know what's going to happen this evening, and we're probably going to have you out of here in an hour and a half at the most, just to give you an idea, we are going to have two parts to our program. The first part will have speaker presentations, and then it's going to be followed by a call to action by Ronna Warsh, one of our group members. So I want to start off by, how did we get here today at this point in time? Well, first of all, in 2003, the city of Windsor annexed approximately 8.9 square miles from the town of Tecumseh for future development, including private land at County Road 42 and Concession 9. At the time, they realized can't expand north, there's a river there. Nothing available on the west end, that's all developed. And you can't go much further east now, because all that land between Little River and going out to Banwell and Lesbronce, if you've not been out there, that's all populated. So the only place left to go, if we're going to expand as a community, as a city, we have to go south. And so that's why those lands were annexed back in 2003. Then in 2012, the Honorable Dwight Duncan kickstarted a thorough investigation into the viability of our current healthcare facilities in this region. His team of professional experts concluded that the shelf lives of the two main hospitals, Windsor Regional's Olette and Met campuses, well, they had expired, or were expiring. They opened their doors in 1888 and 1928, respectively. So it's understandable things don't last forever. The experts determined that these aged buildings would require more money just to bring them up to less than present day needs than the cost of building a new single state care acute hospital with expanded services for the Windsor-Essex region. Really, you can only put so many bandages on a gaping wound, right? In 2013, a site selection committee of volunteers representing all major political backgrounds was struck, and by March 2015, 5 possible locations were identified. In 2015, lands at County Road 42 and Concession 9 were selected. Then in April 2016, there was a marathon council meeting held at City Council in Windsor. And at that meeting, the city, with one nay vote, unanimously with one nay vote, voted to have a levy raised that would take care of our share of the $108 million that is required of the community to have the hospital built. It's a $2 billion project. We're kicking in 108. The county's kicking in 92. In December 2017, Health Minister Dr. Eric Hoskins attended a gathering here in Windsor, and he gave us the green light to go from phase 1 to phase 2 of the project. It was a great moment. We were jubilant. But then there was an election. Things changed, and money didn't follow for the planning stage of phase 2. And that's what we're all about. We want Minister Elliott, we want Premier Ford to bring us the funding that we were promised so that we can get down to the nuts and bolts planning of the hospital, which is what phase 2 and 3 is all about. On August 13th, City Council in 2018 voted in favor of an official plan amendment for the 400-hectare area and also rezoning. These decisions by that council, made in an all-night marathon meeting, have been under appeal by some opposing groups, and they are the subject of some appeals next week by LPAT, which stands for the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. So they'll be here in town listening to the arguments, and we'll make a final decision. We're not here to dispute anything. We're not here to relitigate anything. We believe the process was fair, it was transparent, and it was there for all of us to have our voices heard. So I am not anti-camp, I am not anti-anything. I am pro 42 Forward. Let's get the damn thing built. So that's how we got here. Well, not totally. How did we, 42 Forward, our new hospital, come into being? Well, it all started this way. Gunther, Q, Gunther, and sign. Gunther is a former educator here in the city, was principal of Kennedy for a few years. Look at this sign. Come on, keep coming right across. Who makes their own sign that says, please support the chosen location of the mega hospital, don't risk losing it? And he made just the one sign. He lives 4 houses south of where we are right now on Dougall. And so that was there right by the roadway on Dougall for everyone to see. How many remember Rona Warsh when she was the social services guru for the city here? Of course we did. She did amazing work both for the province and for us. She happened to be going by and saw that sign and did a U-turn. And she looked and she said, this is amazing. Who is this? She didn't know who the homeowner was. So she walked up, rang the doorbell, and who showed up but her old high school teacher, Gunther Wolf.
I object to old.
He objects to old. So in any event, that's how the two of them reconnected. And from that, others were called. And there are so many people of like-minded vision about getting this thing built. That's how we came to be. So that's where we're at, and that's where we're going. We are not in any way, shape, or form, please understand this, connected to the hospital system. We do not have any connection to Windsor Regional Hospital. We support them, of course, but we're not their puppets, as some people would suggest. We are simply a grassroots group of what I call lovable misfits who have come together to give of our time, our energy, and our money to gather all of you together so that our voices can be heard through petition, through this rally, and we want to thank the media for having covered this and for all the exposure that we've been given, because we want the message to get loud and clear to Minister Elliott and also to Premier Ford. Get this hospital built. So, to get us going before our first presentation, my cheerleader in chief, Bev, is going to come up, and she's going to lead you in a couple of, well, stay right down where you're at.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh, you're gonna help me?
Well, I'll help you.
Okay. So I just need your help. I'm gonna say something.
Oh, here.
Oh, they came prepared. All right, so I'm gonna say something and you're just gonna shout it back at me. And then I'm gonna say something else and you're gonna shout it back at me. And then I'm gonna say something else and you're gonna shout it back at me. Easy, right? Okay, and I want to hear it nice and loud. Here we go. Ready? 42.
42.
Forward.
Forward.
Get it done.
Get it done.
42.
42.
Forward.
Forward.
Get it done.
Get it done.
Last time I want the arms in the air. 42.
42.
That was good. She was gonna really yell. Sorry. 42.
42.
Forward.
Forward.
Get it done.
Get it done. Okay, this isn't the last you've seen of Bev. She's going to be doing this throughout the evening. We're now going to enter into our first presentation. And our first presenter has been a long time friend of mine, and is somebody I'm very proud to call my friend. We won't go into all our details, but she's an amazing woman. Her name is Brenda Brunel. She's the mother of 2, also has inherited 2 stepchildren. She has 5 grandchildren, although you look at her and you say, really? Brunel retired from the Department of Citizenship and Immigration in 2012. She's been also at that time the president of CEIU, Local 00601, their union. She's also been recognized, and you're going to see her on TV on Man Alive and Fifth Estate. She's been recognized for her long-time advocacy in this region for victims of sexual abuse by clergy. There's a group called SNAP, and she heads up the local chapter of SNAP, and it's the Survivors Network for those abused by priests. So this woman has a lot of background and has a very interesting story to tell. And sitting right behind Brenda is her better half, and that's Dawn with the big, we're doing Windows Live, aren't we? Or not Windows, but Facebook Live. Dawn figures in to be a big part of her story. So please welcome to the stage our first presenter, Brenda Brunel.
Good evening, friends, and welcome. My name is Brenda Brunel, and I am a resident of Windsor, Ontario. I was invited to join this amazing grassroots group made up of residents within our community. The group 42 Forward, Our New Hospital, was formed to promote the chosen location for a new and enhanced healthcare hospital for our region. Friends, the time is now to let Queen's Park know that we deserve enhanced and safe healthcare services in a modern state of the healthcare facility. We are not second-rate citizens in Ontario. No, we are not. Windsor and Essex County residents deserve the best care the province can give us. Why do I care? Why do I want enhanced hospital built in our community? Allow me to share my personal journey with you this evening. On May 26, 2017, my husband Don and I were visiting friends in Wheatley. Minutes after arriving at our friend's home, our friend took Dawn for a ride in their recently purchased Corvette. This Corvette struck a hydro pole at such high speed that Dawn was ejected from that car wearing his seatbelt. Lying in the field alongside our most dangerous highway, number 3. I arrived at the accident scene ahead of fire and rescue, where I stood on Highway 3 screaming and yelling at my friend, "Is that your Corvette?" Within moments, fire and rescue arrived, and I was advised that not only was that our friend's vehicle, but that my husband was ejected from the car. I was approximately 1 hour away from our home in Windsor and 1 hour and 15 minutes away from our Regional Trauma 1 hospital located on Dougall Avenue in Windsor. Friends, I hope you never find yourselves in such a time-sensitive situation as I did on that fateful night, May 26, 2017. My friend and I had to drive from Highway 3 in Wheatley, following that ambulance all the way to Windsor, just praying with all we had, that ambulance would arrive at that hospital in time to save our husbands' lives. That 1 hour and 15-minute drive felt like a 3-day marathon with no end in sight. We did arrive just in time, and I do mean just in time. My husband was on life support and in a coma for 30 days. He spent a total of 90 days in that hospital. I spent 90 days in that hospital. And I can tell you this, our medical team, doctors, nurses, social workers are extraordinary men and women dedicated to their healthcare profession. I, for one, will forever be grateful to them for saving my husband's life. To this date, Don is still known by staff and referred to as the miracle man who survived that accident. Had our Trauma 1 hospital been located at the new selected site, County Road 42, my extended journey to Willette Avenue would have been shortened, and most important, Don would have been in receipt of critical care a good 25 minutes sooner than what he did. Everyone here tonight knows how many fatal accidents occur on Highway 3. Don was a lucky one who survived the distant drive. The County Road 42 location will ensure that not one more family member will need to make that long trip to downtown Windsor before receiving the medical care required to save their life. Health and safety will also be addressed at our new site, not only for the patients in care, but also for family members. What do I mean by that? Well, I wish to share with you some of my personal journey during our 90-day stay. Don sustained catastrophic injuries to his body, including traumatic brain injury, along with ICU delirium. When he woke up in a ward with 3 patients along with their visitors, he was confused, terrified, and I had no choice but to put him in a private room. I did this for his safety and that of the other patients. The problem was that Don and I do not have private room coverage. Like most people in our community, we have ward coverage only. Can you imagine what my bill was for private coverage after 60 days following his discharge from ICU? Let me help you with the math. The rate per day for a private room is $275. Don spent 60 days at $275. That totals $16,500. Imagine living day to day, fearing the loss of your loved one, fighting every day to keep them alive and medically safe, only to return home, open your mail, and receive a bill in that amount. Because Don had foreign objects inserted into almost every part of his body, he became septic. He survived the crash, and now his multiple infections nearly killed him. Again, this is another reason he required a private room. Our family and friends stood vigil with Don and me every day. If he had been in a ward with 3 other patients, I would likely have been forced to be alone at Don's side without benefiting from our family and friends' support. This support was critical in keeping my own hope for his survival alive. I never could have endured that time period on my own without family and friends. Individual rooms are a necessary element to recovery. I truly believe this. Just think about a time you visited someone in the hospital who was sharing a room with others, and try to imagine being in my situation with Don and having to remain in a ward for 90 days. During Don's stay in hospital, he encountered 2 separate health concerns that could not be addressed within the Olette campus. The necessary specialties were not available within the hospital. Had we had a hospital with all specialties under one roof, Don would have been in receipt of complete care. From a safety point of view, I can't tell you how terrified I was arriving at the hospital at different hours of the night, alone, unescorted, responding to urgent calls from the hospital to return due to Don's decline in health. My phone rang throughout the night. I answered, I got dressed, I threw my hair up in a clip, and I ran as fast as I could to that hospital, alone, in that parking lot, entering that building, dashing up to Don's floor. The entire experience was just terrifying. I can't help believing the new site will eliminate some of the encounters I had at the existing site. Don is alive today. He is here with us tonight because of the extraordinary care he received. Our nurses, doctors, personnel staff deserve to work in an environment that enhances our healthcare needs. We as citizens in this great country of ours, Canada, and residents of Windsor, Essex County, deserve enhanced healthcare. I am looking forward to the County Road 42 location for a new enhanced healthcare hospital, knowing that if I am hospitalized in the future, I will have the best possible care available to me. I urge you to sign the petition, to sign the postcards, so that our group can deliver them in person to the Minister of Health on Monday morning. We want this hospital. We deserve enhanced health care. We need to have our voices heard. You need to have your voice heard. Support 42 Forward, our new hospital. Thank you.
Thank you so very, very much, Brenda. It's very kind of you to share and to revisit some very painful memories. But damn it, it's good to have Dawn with us. Our next speaker, her name is Diane Marley. She's currently the co-chair of the Patient and Family Advisory Committee at Windsor Regional Hospital's Cancer Center, which is one of the most amazing cancer centers in the province, as well as a member of the PFAC for Windsor Regional Hospital. Maybe she can explain what that stands for. She also serves on the Patient Experience Task Force Committee for Windsor Regional Hospital. She's a survivor and she's a volunteer. And these groups are in place to enhance the patient experience for both the cancer center and the hospital please welcome, and I believe she's a member of the county. She lives out in the county somewhere. So, Diane Marley, we're so glad to have you here. Come and share your story.
A health and safety rule. Oh, it is such an honor to be here tonight. I don't think I could ever express how happy I am and how honored I am to be able to speak to you tonight on this very important occasion. I'm going to give you a little idea of all these things that they talked about that I sit on. I do sit on these committees now. I help make some decisions for patients. And I'll tell you how I got there, because it certainly wasn't anything I was expecting. In December of 2012, on my daughter Janine's birthday, unfortunately, December the 20th, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. It was invasive ductal carcinoma, very serious, very aggressive cancer, and it was also triple negative. So my doctor set into motion immediately for me to get care. And to be perfectly honest with you, at that time, I thought immediately, from what I had heard, meant I had months to wait. And that's just not the case. I only had days to wait until I was in surgery. Even though it was the Christmas holidays, I still was raced in to have the lump removed and to set me on the course to getting better and getting treatment. And I got to get into the cancer center after my time of healing and assigned to my oncologist, and there I was in the hospital system in Windsor. Never has happened to me before. I had maybe gone in for a test or two. I honestly didn't even know where the cancer center was, because I wasn't going to get cancer, so I don't need to know where it is. So I went into my treatment. I had, after my surgery, I was scheduled to have chemotherapy as well as radiation. And very short order, I was in treatment in the cancer center and receiving my chemotherapy, which is a startling, very emotional time, because you just don't know what to expect. You don't know how to deal with it. And there's one test and another test, and you're going here, and don't forget your blood work, and don't forget this. And it takes like an army of people to sort of help guide you through to this point that you're getting in order to get better. And I was receiving, and I was dealing with all the side effects and everything that came along with it. And I got to the end of the first set of medications, drugs that I was supposed to receive, and that was Easter weekend. And I went into Easter weekend. I was weak. That was kind of my down slope of my treatment. And I went into Easter weekend thinking, you know what, I'm beating the sand, I'm doing good. Everything's going forward. And we heard on the news, and some people started to contact us. There's talk out there that there's been underdosed chemotherapy, and it has to do with breast cancer patients. And, you know, you should have received a letter. So, and of course, I'm having my family run to the front door and check the mailbox. And nope, no letter. So can't be me. Excellent. And I think my family kind of were pretty positive it wasn't me. And I sort of said, do you know what? I just have this feeling. It's just kind of creeping on me. I think this is me. And sure enough, I got a call from the hospital. Yes, it was me. And I had received underdosed chemotherapy. And so my question was, what do I do? What do I do? Well, there really isn't anything we can do for you. It's dangerous. We couldn't do anything for you. So then all this uncertainty just flooded us as a family, as my core group of people that I'm telling you bombarded us with phone calls and texts and emails. You know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I still had the rest of my chemo to go. And at that time, I moved from the side of the chemotherapy suite where you sit to the part where you lay, because it gets a little more serious. You get a little bit more drug, and you have to be laying down. So I had all that to deal with. And I have to say, the care that I received was just amazing. It was amazing from start to finish. I would never, ever say anything otherwise, because I'm here. I'm here to say it was amazing. It was amazing. Thank you. Thank you. And because of the kindness and the compassion of David Mouche, who, along with his team, held town hall meetings and gave us the reason how this happened. How did this happen? What do we do? How do we go forward? And from that day, and I had to get up the courage to go in the following week and get more chemo, and without sort of being too forward, sort of glancing up at the bags and just saying, can you please maybe discuss with me how these get mixed and what are we doing? Just because I've got this little thing now. And of course the staff were just amazing. And it got me through to the end. And the problem that came with that sort of scenario was that, number one, all of us have to live with that feeling that I didn't get as much chemo as I was supposed to. But number two for me was there has to come change. Like, change has to happen. Somebody needs to go back to the source and make sure that this isn't going to happen to anyone else. And I think because I sort of brought that up at the time, and I followed through a little bit through some channels that I ended up making acquaintances through Toronto, etc., there was some action actually to these mixing facilities that were not being properly monitored, and now they are. So that was the first sort of advocate type thing that I was involved in. And so that just sort of tumbled into getting involved with the Patient and Family Advisory Committee. And that committee deals with making decisions for other patients and sort of helping along the way so that it makes whoever has to come up after me maybe a little bit easier. So through that, I attended some meetings about the new hospital, and thinking that I kind of knew what was going to be said. We're going to talk about the building, we're going to talk about where it's going to go, how it's going to go up, what do the other new hospitals look like. But I attended one session when Mr. Ruben Devlin came to our area to speak. And he went into a little bit more detail about some of the new things that come with these new hospitals. And he got to safety. And he said there's so many safety things in place that really the buildings now just can't accommodate. And one of the things that he mentioned was that they engage robotic technology in the mixing of chemotherapy drugs. Wow. So, yes. So in my situation, had we had that, and for people that are following up behind me, even though there are so many safeties in place, it would just be that one other step. It would be that one other thing that would make it so that the safety and the fear that goes into a cancer patient getting these toxic drugs would just be so much less. And it hit me so intensely there because, I'm thinking of these other little things about what it's going to look like, and it's going to be new, and the way the garbage goes out and the way they take the laundry out. And I thought all this was cool until he mentioned that all of the safety features, and that's paramount. And the staff are doing that so well every day. The safety of the patients is the top of their mind, and it's heartwarming, and it makes you know that as a patient you're in the right place. And so I'm gonna skip forward a little bit and tell you this story because friends of mine asked me. My mother had to go into the hospital for a knee replacement surgery, and we had it all set up and everything's fine. Comes on the news that there's problems with sterilization of equipment. And I think we all remember that, watching David's hands with the pieces of white paper, and it's, oh, okay, I'm getting phone calls from my mom. What's happening with my surgery? Oh no, and okay, you're over at the med site, your surgery's gonna go on, Mom, I'm gonna be there, everything's gonna be fine. And sure enough, surgery goes along wonderfully, staff perfect, everything just worked out great. Then she's in her room, I'm her caregiver, and I'm sitting at the foot of her bed. And the lady in the next bed beside her, same thing, same surgery, same day, same morning. So I'm sort of monitoring both ladies, and I'm thinking, this is great, you know, there's only 2 beds in this room. We hit the jackpot because it could be 4, like you were speaking about. And I'm all excited about this, except for the fact that these people are expected to get up out of their bed and do physiotherapy, possibly that night. So whenever anyone asks me, how's your mom doing? Well, she's doing fine. I've become a furniture mover. Yes. I had no idea, but I'm a furniture mover. All of it, I'm not her caregiver. I am entrusted with moving all of the chairs out into the hallway, moving her tray table out moving her neighbor's tray table out into the hallway, because there's no way these physiotherapy people are getting in there and getting these people up out of their bed safely with their walkers and a chair to follow them. And physiotherapy is done in the hallway. And there's other stuff in the hallway, and they're you know, and this is our once, right? This is our one experience. This is the staff's everyday experience. And yet they come in there, good morning, and we're gonna get you up out of bed, we're gonna get you moving. And it was, she received the best of care. But honestly, the facility is just not equipped for these kinds of things, because the requirements and technology is moving along. And I think I've said it before, and I know some of you heard of it when I say it, but wouldn't it just be heartbreaking if we had to not accept some of the things that are new and are coming out for our patients strictly because our building can't fit it, or we don't have enough electricity to run it? So honestly, I'm so for the fact that we need this new building. I'm so grateful that all of you are here tonight supporting this cause. And all I can say is 42 forward for all of us.
Whoa! I'm convinced even more than ever we need 42 forward. Get it built! So that you don't think it's just women who get sick, we thought we would also have a male presenter tonight. And actually, he's a very, very dear friend of mine. His name is Dennis Dowker, who spent 30 years in the Ontario college system, retiring in 2017 as Executive Director of Academic Excellence and Quality Assurance at St. Clair College. I've known Dennis for quite a while. In fact, I'm a marriage officiant, and I had the honor of marrying him and his partner, his spouse, Sandy, who's a young 87 years old, and who, as we speak, has just undergone 2 significant surgeries in this past week and is at Med Hospital, right? But Dennis felt it was important enough to be here tonight because Sandy wanted him out of his room. And Sandy is kind of an old curmudgeon, but a heart of gold. And Sandy on social media, whenever things were posted about the mega hospital, he said, "Get the damn things built." So I think he's going to bring that message here tonight on behalf of Sandy. Please welcome Dennis Dowker.
He did steal an awful lot of my lines, that's for sure. My name is Dennis Dowker, and I have the pleasure of living in the avian Lepidopterus, tomato, and now cannabis capital of Ontario. I lived in Windsor, though, from 2007 until 2016. And I have to say that I developed an affection for this city and for this whole region. And I sometimes wonder why people who live here put it down. There is no reason to do that. This is a marvelous part of the country to live, as far as I'm concerned. I wasn't going to mention this, but when I moved here in 2007, I had some interesting experiences as part of my move here. I was in Toronto waiting for the movers, and I had hired Windsor movers because I knew I was going to have to store my stuff for a while. And when the young man walked into my place in Toronto, he said, "What the heck are you doing moving to Windsor? Everybody is moving out of Windsor." And I thought, wow, that's a great introduction to my new home. I know he was wrong, though. Anyway, Joe mentioned that Sandy and I are both senior citizens. I know you're surprised by that. Sandy is about to celebrate his 88th birthday on October the 15th. And I'm closing in on my 74th. Sandy and I have been really lucky in our past history. We have good genes, and we have a long life of relatively no need for much in the way of health care. But I can guarantee you that, as the 1940s actress Bette Davis once famously said, "Aging ain't for sissies." And we've begun to experience some of what maybe Bette Davis was thinking about. I struggle with neuropathy, sciatica. I had a TIA a few years ago, and now, as you may have noticed, my knees are giving out. Luckily, I've escaped diabetes and some of the things that you would think I might be afflicted with. Sandy has been really good up until, well, he was in his 80s before he had any health problems. But we're both at the age now where we're experiencing a need for really good health care. And health care that I would say we have here in terms of our personnel, and I've heard others say this, I believe that I've obtained some of the best health care here that I've ever had any place that I've lived previously, and that includes London and Toronto. One of the things that both Sandy and I have experienced is arriving at what is now the Erie Shores Hospital by ambulance and being looked after there. And at least both of us on two separate, different occasions needed to come to Windsor. And as Joe mentioned, I've spent the last few days at Met Campus, down in the dungeons, and up in the room with Sandy. And it is a facility whose time is past. It needs to be replaced. What I was going to say is that in my experience of living out in the county, that the hospitals coordinate and integrate their services the best that they can possibly do. And I think that is what good healthcare is all about. And it's the same thing here in the city of Windsor. The new mega hospital will be, as I described it, the wellspring of the health services that we receive. But it'll be coordinated and integrated with the other hospitals in this city and the other healthcare, the only other healthcare facility in the county that I understand anyways. And I think that's an important point, because that means that we all have access to the same level of care. I lived in London when the new hospital was built there. And I remember some of the jokes about it being built out in the cow pasture. And if you drive in there today, you probably wouldn't even understand where that would have come from. But in those days, it was considered to be way out in the country, out in the boonies. It's a state-of-the-art facility that serves the needs not only of all of London, which is now about 350,000 people, but my brother, who lived in St. Thomas, also had the benefit of that wonderful institution. And that coordinated with the care that he got in St. Thomas. And I think that's a critical factor that we sometimes don't think about, is that level of integration is an important factor in having a mega hospital that will serve the needs of the entire community, but not by itself, together with all of the other hospitals and healthcare facilities. Joe is right. Sandy is not a political person. He hasn't got time to, if I turn on the television and I'm watching my usual MSNBC, he disappears. He's not interested in politics. But every time, as Joe said, that he's gotten into a discussion about the new hospital, he says exactly what Joe said. Just get the damn thing built. Enough with all this talk. I guess I'll use those words to close, because as I understand it, the decision was made with careful thought in every aspect, and that includes the location. And I'm sure that the planning of the hospital itself will be, as was described, it will have the kinds of modern medical technology capabilities that the current hospitals couldn't even possibly do. So I'm looking forward to that hospital being built, and I'm trusting that both Sandy and I are going to be here if we ever need it. Thank you.
Just get the damn thing built. You tell Sandy we said that for him tonight. Listen, we are now at a point where we have two amazing speakers. Not that these people weren't amazing. You've heard from patients who have received care in this area. Who we haven't heard from are those who provide care. So before I call the next gentleman up, I think we just need a very brief stretch, and our cheerleading coach, Bev, is going to come up here again. Bev, are you ready? Okay. Do we need the mic? Okay, just a little cheer. Picture yourself with your poodle skirts on and pom-poms.
Not that old.
Yeah.
Here we go. Ready?
Yep.
42.
42.
Forward.
Forward.
Get it done.
Get it done.
Do it again?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. 42.
42.
Forward.
Forward.
Get it done.
Get it done.
42.
42.
Forward.
Forward.
Get it done.
Get it done.
Thanks for being
Bev, Rona, what was your chant? Tell her about the funding. Phase 2 funding.
No, I forget it.
Oh, I wanted you to do that for us. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Rona's going to do that. Listen, it is really my distinct honor right now to introduce to you a special guest. His name is Dr. Wasim Saad, who grew up in Essex County, did his education here in Windsor, went to the University of Ottawa, and he has been in clinical practice in Windsor for over 14 years, held many different professional appointments. Most recently, Dr. Saad has been appointed as Chief of Staff at Windsor Regional Hospital and has the ho-hum task of overseeing clinical operations at both the Olette and Metropolitan campuses. That's a lot of responsibility. And so I want all of us, please, to give him a very warm welcome as he approaches the stage. There you go. See what it's like when you're young? You can just bypass the stairs. I'm taking the stairs. Doctor in the house.
Well, not sure I can. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for the warm welcome. It is great to see so many enthusiastic people who want what myself and so many of us at Windsor Regional Hospital have wanted for so long. A new hospital that will allow us to care for our patients in a state-of-the-art facility that they need and deserve. As you have already heard in the introduction, my name is Dr. Wasim Saad, and although I've only recently been appointed Chief of Staff at Windsor Regional Hospital, I can assure you my excitement and my anticipation of a new hospital for our community has been on my mind for a long time. I was raised in this community, Leamington in fact, where there is a great hospital that is very much a part of the future vision of our region's hospital system. I'll speak to that later. I did my undergraduate degree here in Windsor, finished my medical degree in Ottawa, worked at Toronto hospitals, including Toronto General and Western, Mount Sinai, and Sunnybrook, before coming back to Windsor in 2005. Here's what I can tell you that I know from my years of experience about our hospitals here in Windsor. We have an amazing group of doctors, professional staff, nurses, allied health professionals, and administrators who really do strive each and every day to live our motto, outstanding care, no exceptions. However, our ability to provide the outstanding care that we aim for is too often compromised, not by our abilities, but by our limitations of space and antiquated design. We have a hospital that is a patchwork of buildings that were built decades ago to attach to buildings built even more decades ago. Some of our hospitals are between 80 and 100 years old. So what, someone might say, especially someone who hasn't spent time in our facilities, either as a patient or someone visiting a loved one, or someone who works or volunteers there. Let me try to illustrate in a few words why these limitations are so frustrating. At the Olette campus, we have a 5th floor that was originally a pediatric unit at the old Hotel du Hospital. One child would be a patient in his or her own room. Today, that same floor is our clinical teaching unit, where each room houses 3 patients at a time. in the same space once dedicated to just one child. If I'm sitting in the middle of that room, I can almost touch all 3 beds at the same time. Think of how that compromises privacy. What if I needed to have a very serious conversation at the bedside with a patient about their condition, their prognosis, or their care? I have no private room on that floor to hold that conversation with the patient. So there we are, holding these often very sensitive conversations with little to no privacy for the patient who needs to hear it. The standard of new hospitals throughout the province of Ontario calls for 80% private rooms. Right now, we have 20% private rooms, the exact opposite ratio. Think of all those medical conversations that are held with patients in cramped quarters that barely fit our equipment needs, let alone comfortable space for visitors. It's also well known that these shared accommodations, with their shared sleeping space, but also shared bathrooms, hamper our ability to protect our patients from infections that may pass from one to another. Just a few weeks ago, one of the largest hospital moves in Canada's history occurred when the Royal Victoria Hospital in Montreal moved from their old site to a new location. This gave researchers the opportunity to determine exactly how much environment contributed to disease. With this move, there was a dramatic change in hospital wards, going from 3 or 4 people in a room to a 21st century building where every single one of the 500 patient rooms were for one patient only, each with a private bathroom. The result? An almost overnight drop in the rate of hospital-acquired infections. So, this is what I want to see for our patients. Space for privacy and dignity. Space for our clinical staff to provide them with the best care in a safe environment that significantly reduces the chance that we will harm them while we're trying to help them. What else can I say about our current infrastructure? Well, we do the best we can, but we have aging facilities, and there's only so much you can do to efficiently provide heat in the winter, cool air in the summer, and keep the lights on and the water running with old infrastructure that is far from the most efficient. With these limitations, whenever we have a pipe burst or flooding, like we saw at the Met Emergency Department just a couple of summers ago. Just last week, we had flooding at the Olette campus. Why? Not because of rain, because we have an old system for flushing our toilet waste, and that system became clogged. The system is in the walls, and we have limited ability to make it better. There are many myths out there when it comes to our new hospital plan. One is that the facility we have now are adequate. As I have described so far, they are not. Another myth, as I mentioned earlier, that somehow our plan compromises the hospital in Leamington. That's fiction. Leamington's hospital, Erie Shores Healthcare, is very much an important part of the hospital vision that we want to see become reality in our area. Another myth, that we have 2 general hospitals and we are going to end up with just one. Here's the truth. We have half of a general hospital at the Olette campus and half of a hospital at the Metropolitan campus. They provide different services. They are one hospital organization, but they are kilometers apart. Yet another myth. There will be less beds in the new hospital than the current total now. We currently have 500 beds across both campuses. And if we were to move all those patients tomorrow to the new hospital, they will be moving into space built for over 700 with capacity to expand. And expansion is something we cannot do at either site because they are landlocked and there's no infrastructure to even consider it. The Olette campus has the oldest inpatient units in the province. You have doctors who are on call who go back and forth between campuses. This puts a tremendous stress on our medical staff. One site will allow us to standardize care, rather than having clinical staff have to constantly travel from one location to another. Our services right now are spread out. They are fragmented. In a new hospital, the care will be seamless. Indeed, many of the problems we see now will disappear under one roof. It's not just staff who travel back and forth. What about patients? In the last fiscal year, more than 1,500 patients had to be transferred from the Met campus to the Ouellette campus or vice versa. That is not ideal medical care, not in this century or the last one. So let's summarize. A new hospital means state-of-the-art facilities with more privacy for patients, more space for our staff to provide care, reduced chance of infection, quicker care by medical staff, and eliminating the need to transfer patients from one campus to another. And what about location? As I told the media when I was introduced this past summer as Chief of Staff, you could put the hospital in the middle of the Detroit River and all the doctors will be there to see patients. It just needs to be built, and we can't afford any more debate or delay. We have a location that was chosen after an exhaustive and complete process that included community members like people in this room. The process was so robust that no less than 7 other communities have asked us for our help with their selection process. One of those hospitals is in Ottawa. I love Ottawa. I lived in Ottawa for 4 years when I was in medical school. I met my wife in Ottawa. But they started their capital planning project after we did, and recently they just moved ahead of us. Are people in Ottawa more important than the people of Windsor, Essex? No, they are not. For our patients, for our community, for clinicians like myself who want to care for you and your loved one in the right place at the time you need it, we need to move forward. Thank you. And with the support of everyone in attendance today, and the many political leaders at every level of government who have also voiced their support, we can move forward. We are ready, so let's go.
I think that was pretty compelling. They are the ones who provide the service to us. Our final speaker is somebody that when I first heard her, I fell in love with her. Because she was able to stay up for many hours before City Council and some of those marathon sessions. And of all the people who spoke as delegations on the hospital funding issues, no one spoke with more passion and insight and had an understanding of the importance of that hospital for our community than Dr. Lisa Porter. She did her PhD at McMaster in Hamilton in medical sciences, did her postdoctoral fellowship at the University of California in San Diego. She really is one of Canada's top research scientists, and we're so blessed to have you in our community. I'm not going to go on and on. She's got a colleague, Dr. Caroline Ham, and they founded the Windsor Cancer Research Group in 2012 in an effort to elevate cancer research going on in Windsor, Essex. But I'm going to leave her introduction with this, because this was my favorite part. She says in brackets, "You don't have to worry about being too formal with me. I'm good with just being the vocal chick on Twitter or Facebook that keeps preaching about research." That's our Dr. Lisa Porter. Please welcome her to the stage.
short. So here we go. Good afternoon, everybody. It's really great for me to be here today, to see so many faces here, and really it's an honor to get to speak, to say a few words about this exciting and really important project. You've heard from a few people here today, and I think every one of those talks was amazing and really solidified why we need this hospital here and why we need it here now. I'm just going to finish off with a little bit of a personal perspective. I really rarely do this, and so I'm kind of putting myself out here for you. But I'm going to say a little bit of a personal story, and then I'm going to leave you with some remaining thoughts. Back in 2004, when I was deciding really what I wanted to do when I grow up, I was deciding where I was going to land for my academic career, and I had two really good job offers on the table. One was here at the University of Windsor, and the other was at the University of Ottawa. Seems like we're picking on Ottawa tonight. At the CHEO Institute up there. And CHEO is what we call an academic research hospital. It has research and teaching embedded in it. For me, I'm a science geek. I love science, and I love my research. And what I want to do most is to find new therapies, new treatments, new diagnoses for patients with cancer and benign tumor syndromes. So the answer was simple to me. I was going to Ottawa. I signed a contract with Ottawa, and that's where I was going to go. A few days after I signed that contract, my unborn son at the time, as he's continued to do for the rest of my life, threw a wrench into my plans. So he decided to be born prematurely. And so I had a premature labor and a little bit of complications attached to that. And so my husband and I decided to switch our script here, and I reversed my contract and came to the University of Windsor. I wanted to be... We wanted to be near to our family and friends here in southwestern Ontario. When I started up my lab here, it was a little bit as I had expected. You know, I was at the university, there was a handful of cancer researchers there, but I wasn't surrounded by physicians. I didn't have access to patients. I didn't have access to patient samples. I didn't have the cutting edge equipment that I needed to do my work. I did, however, recruit some amazing students right out of the gate. And one of the things I realized and still realize is that one of our greatest resources here in Windsor, Essex is there's a surplus of really intelligent and motivated young people who want to be in this community, who want to do their careers here and to remain in this community. I then reached out across town and I met Dr. Carolyn Ham, who's here today as well, and for those who know her, she's a force. And I was so lucky to join up with her. And then since then, I met a number of other doctors, pathologists, surgeons, support staff, nurses. We started working together. We formed the Windsor Cancer Research Group, which started out with a handful of people and grew to be over 300 researchers in the last little while. What I've learned in working with these people is that we have dedicated people who want to go above and beyond for their patients, but what they're doing is working with subpar resources. They have aged infrastructure, and they don't have what we call an academic research center, which means they don't have extra time to do research, to do training, to do teaching. They don't have time for professional development. These are things that for professionals, this is what motivates and excites people. It's what gets them every day wanting to do more and more for their patients. It's what gives them the fuel to be able to do what they need to do to go above and beyond. So what also became really apparent to me when I was comparing sort of the atmosphere, it wasn't all negative. One of the things that Dr. Sad also pointed out was that when I was comparing the different institutions that I worked at, there was, unlike being at the University of Ottawa or at McMaster or Toronto, where I also worked, the people here we were big enough to have great institutions, but yet still small enough where people talk to each other. The leaders and the leadership teams at these individual places actually had similar visions. They wanted to work together and move towards a common vision. They had the ability to actually deliver to our community a regional plan. What we're talking about here is not just about bricks and mortar. We as a community have the ability to do so much more. We have the ability to not just become as good as the University of Ottawa, but to become better. We can build here something that actually addresses the needs of an entire region. What I'm talking about is amalgamating, and Dennis actually mentioned this a little bit in his talk as well, is amalgamating our services together. Our facilities can talk to one another. We can take cutting edge infrastructure that's very expensive and start saying, can we really think about how to best work around this equipment so that we make a plan so that that new PET CT scan is here for you when you need it? Can we bring together our resources so that we open up operating dollars so that we can put those operating dollars into the front lines to hire more nurses, to hire more support staff, to fund PET projects, to fuel research? Can we integrate our hospital systems with our academic centers, with the university, with the college, with our communities? Can we bring together resources, supplies, ideas, expertise? We can do this here in our region. We have this available to us now. This infrastructure allows us to build on the momentum that already exists within the walls of our hospital, to build on the goodwill of the people that work there every day, to provide our patients not just with what's as good as everywhere else, but cutting edge. We have the opportunity to right now make Windsor a place that's recognized for cutting edge research, for cutting edge training, for delivering to our patients the best treatments, the best diagnosis, for having top cutting edge equipment. In 2012, there was a national report that was released that said that patients treated at academic centers that do this, that have research, that have these cutting edge things, survive longer. They have better outcomes. Right now, we have the opportunity to do that for the people here in Windsor. I've been here now for 15 years. Windsor is the only home that my sons know. And I would tell them every day that they're lucky to be here. We're lucky to be in Windsor. We're lucky to be in a place where the community works together, where we work together to overcome barriers, and where we work together to achieve excellence. And so right now is the opportunity for us to say that we need excellence here in our community. Thank you.
Okay. On the backboard, we've been thanking our various sponsors, but in particular, we really do want to thank Mr. Brian Parent, the owner of this new facility. Isn't this an amazing facility? Have you checked out the washroom yet? Serious. You will not find a washroom anywhere in the city as nice as these. And I understand the new hospital will have washrooms just as similar. So we want to thank all of the staff there. I had a sheet of paper with all their names. I apologize, I can't find it. But they've just done enormous work in allowing us to be their guests tonight. Is Carl still? There's Carl. There's been a group that's become an ally of the movement that we are. They haven't been part of our grassroots startup. They're the International Brother of Electrical Workers Local 773. You may notice some signs popping up here and there in the city and in the county that are urging this hospital to get built. And that's because of Carl Lovett, who's standing back there. Wave at us, Carl. He's the business manager for IBW 773. And when you leave here tonight, in a few minutes, not yet, we ask you to take some of the signs. They're in the front lobby as you leave. Take those signs as if they're a young sapling and plant them in your front lawn. And if your neighbors aren't looking, plant them in their lawn. Let's get these signs out, because signs convey messages. So we want to thank him. We also want to thank Brandon Osborne, who's here today, along with Christina Nacarado. They're part of the Windsor Regional Hospital Foundation. That's the charitable wing of the hospital. And they have these really cool wristbands. I got to show you mine. And you can get them. You can get them for $2. It says, #new hospital at County Road 42. Need it, deserve it. So wear these. So when you shake hands with people, you're showing them where you stand. We also have some shirts back here that we are making available. If you wish to wear shirts like this, we have them in 2 colors, white, which was Jeff's choice, and the right choice. I made the mistake of getting these logos printed on blue shirts, which don't show up as well. But those shirts are available. Rona has the blue shirt on, and it looks wonderful, actually, I think, as does this. Jeff has also produced some auto window vinyl decals saying 42 Forward. Let's plaster our cars with those. Let's wear these shirts. Let's plant signs. Let the community know that we want the new hospital now. And with that being said, it is really my distinct honor to bring up the reason why we're here. She started this. Well, Gunther, you started it by planting your sign on your front lawn. But she had the gumption to stop and find out, what is that sign about? And it just spiraled out of control in a good way to the point where we're at here tonight. I want to thank each and every one of you. Give yourselves a big round of applause. And thank you for standing up for both the city and the county. Please welcome to the stage somebody who's no stranger to social services, the vulnerable, the poor, the needy in our community. She's got a pedigree that will outdo anybody's. Rona Warsh, our former Executive Director of Social Services at the City of Windsor.
Thank you to each and every one of you for coming. And I just want to reflect on what people told you tonight. People came and told their stories from their heart, and that's not easy to do, especially when you're not well or you have a loved one who's not well. And so we heard from 3 people, Diane didn't mention it, who are all driving from their homes into the 2 different hospitals, and that is extremely taxing, especially for people who live in Leamington, etc., like Dennis does. So I also, and I don't want to talk about it, I'm not going to talk about it, that's not my job, but one of the reasons that I started this group and that I stopped at my former physics teacher's house, I didn't do well in physics, but he welcomed me anyway. One of the reasons I did that is that I had, as a family member, the sad experience of following an ambulance to a hospital. And I spent not nearly as long as you spent in a hospital, but I spent long enough. And I know that that is a very traumatic experience for people, and people from the county and the city deserve the best. The other reason that I decided to bring this group together is because I worked for 30 years in government, both at the provincial and at the municipal level. And I know that the power is not with the politicians. The power is with the people. And you are the people. We are the people. So what you're doing by being here and giving 2 hours of your time tonight is going to change the conversation and make a difference. And so from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my committee's heart, I want to thank each and every one for your support and your dedication. We have really outdone ourselves. I always admired grassroots groups, but because of my position, I was never able to really be a part of a grassroots group. And this group that was introduced to you at the beginning is I'm privileged to be a part of it. Brian, as chair, I started out as chair and realized I was too busy and handed over the chair to Brian. Brian has done an amazing job. Each and every person on this committee took money out of their own pockets. We had no money. We sat at my kitchen table and they took money out of their pockets to start this initiative. And then other sponsors that are listed on the back, and I urge you to look at that, came forward to help us. So I am forever grateful to this committee, to Brian, Joe for your leadership, and I really want to thank even my physics teacher, Gunther, for all of the work that we've done. So what can you do now? This is coming to an end, and I know that we're going to get great media exposure in the next few days. And what I know, and I have colleagues here that work with me at the province and at the municipal level, is that this rally will get heard in Queen's Park. The Ministry of Health will find out that you are in this room and that there are hundreds of people that support this hospital at this new location. We had people on this committee going door to door with postcards, and if you did not sign a postcard, please sign them on the way out. Gunther will make sure that you sign the postcards. We have boxes and boxes of signed postcards, and we have a petition with thousands of names on it that my dear friends, and I want to call them friends now, people I didn't know very well, on the committee, 4 of the committee members are going to get in a car and they're going to drive the postcards personally to Toronto. We're going to have a little help. We're hoping for a little help politically with that initiative, but those postcards will go directly to the Minister of Health's office, and the Premier will find out about this event. So I urge you to sign the postcard, sign the petition, which you can find online, and I think the email or the address is listed, but also individually. If you are inspired, and I hope to goodness you are inspired by being here tonight, you can write a letter to the editor of the Windsor Star. All of those letters that are in the Windsor Star change the conversation, and they get our voices heard, and our voices say we want this hospital. So spend an hour. Don't worry about whether your grammar is perfect or not. The point of it is you came, you wanted, be loud, don't be afraid of it, and just say it in the local newspaper. Those local newspaper clippings, and I'm looking at some of my friends from the province, they go to Toronto. There is a communications department in the Ministry of Health, and your voices get heard in Toronto. We do not have, as you know, a sitting MPP right now. And that doesn't necessarily help us. So we need to work a little harder to get our voices heard in the Conservative Party in Toronto. And we do have some connections, and we're making those connections, but all the help we can get from each of you individually, whether you take a sign, as Joe said, they're not our group, but they're another group, and they get the message across, you buy a wristband, you write the Windsor Star, you sign our petition, you sign the postcard, all of that matters. So that is our call to action. Other groups have come forward and asked us, what are we going to do after tonight? If you knew the time and effort that was put into this event, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, everybody ran around, Jeff, others, everybody ran around like eager beavers, the whole committee. So we're a little bit tired and we need a little bit of a break. And we're not sure about that. I mean, our goal was to get this off the ground, and we did it. We were successful at it, to get our message out, to hear from patients, real stories, to hear from staff at the hospital, which we heard. We accomplished our goal, and we're not sure where we're going to go from here. But on the back screen is Doug Ford's information.
You all, most of you, not all of you, but many of you have cell phones. I urge you to stand in front and take a picture. Doug Ford, you'll see Minister Elliott, Minister of Health, and you'll also see, I think, Jeff, we put up the Windsor Star. The Windsor Star, if you want to stay there, the Windsor Star letter to the editor email address. Takes you 2 minutes to send an email. If each and every one of you this week finds the time to write one of those letters, I guarantee it will be heard. I don't like, and you shouldn't like, that Ottawa project jumped ahead of us. So we are damn well going to sit in a room in a few months from now and celebrate together that the Ministry of Health has moved our project to phase 2. That's what we're going to do. And we can only do that together. So it's coming, it's going to happen. We're going to all get in a room when that announcement comes, each and every one of you, and then we're going to break open a couple of bottles of wine to celebrate moving to a new and better hospital system, not only on County Road 42, but there will be redevelopment on Olette, and it will mean that the Prince Road site will get some investments as well. We're talking about a whole system and a planning effort that will take into account all ages, people who live through the whole county, I'm assured of it, and people who require mental health services. I've spent my career helping vulnerable people. So we won't forget those people, trust me. Nobody in this room wants to forget anybody. So this is healthcare for all, and together you can make a difference. So take your cell phones, get those cards signed. Don't leave here without signing a card. Get those email addresses, write your own letters, and hopefully we'll be back together in a few months to celebrate. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Ronald Ward. He's been our inspiration and brought us together. I want to see if we can get our whole group up here. Group, Janice, everybody, Noah, Jeff, get even Hunter. Don't forget, pick up signs in the lobby as you leave. Also, we will be establishing in a short while a Facebook page where we will give updates on what is happening, possibly put some pictures from this event tonight on that. Let's get the sign. Gunter! Okay, who are we missing? Janice? Janice Windsor? Yep, Janice? 1, 2, 3, who are we missing? Brian's out there. We're handing out. Here's Brian, where's Janice? Janice? What are we doing, Joe? One last picture. Hey, Janice Windsor? Okay, here comes Janice. Here we are.